All right, good morning and welcome. My name is Brandon, and today I'll be talking about the Secret Service, excuse me, and my career there. I'm going to cover a little bit of the history, what training was like, what the job entails, and then what my part was specifically. Disclaimer, technically my job was being a police officer at the White House, so I'm here to talk about everything I just mentioned. I welcome questions at the end, but I'll let you know if there gets to be a fuzzy area or something I can't talk about. Everything you're hearing today is on the internet and or is not sensitive information. All right, so who are the Secret Service? On the day Lincoln was killed, he signed into legislation that the Secret Service would start investigating counterfeit currency. In 1865, about 1/3 of US money was counterfeit. After Lincoln's death, we took up informal protection for about 35 years of the president. After the assassination of William McKinley in 1901, we took up full-time protection of the president. Evolving since, our job now today is protecting the president, vice president, president-elects, and foreign dignitaries who visit the US. Today, there are two main sections, special agents and the uniform division. Special agents are in field offices across the US and major cities across the world. They still conduct financial investigations, but when a protectee visits, they drop their case, and then they do the protective detail. Once that person leaves, they move on. The other half, my team, was the uniform division. Uniform division was the White House Police in 1922, and then soon merged with the Secret Service. We protect the White House complex, the VP Res, and foreign missions as well. The White House is the main piece of protection, obviously. We protect the presidential family, their staff, visitors, but also the White House itself. The left picture is the VP residence. The center picture is the White House, Eisenhower building, and the Treasury. And the right is an example of the embassy. UD's main job is to keep people safe, protect buildings, and verify people's identity so the right people come in and the wrong people stay out. There are several entry points around the White House you can enter and exit. As long as you have the right documentation, you can come in. While the president and family live there, it's also a huge office complex. Thousands of people work between the three buildings I mentioned at the White House. A lot of our job here entails verifying identity, checking people in a metal detector, and running their stuff through an X-ray to check for contraband. You can also specialize on another team. These teams include counter surveillance, counter sniper, emergency response team, the K9 unit, bike or trek patrol, and footbeat officers, which walk around the White House looking for bad things. A lot of people ask, how do you get a job like that? It's actually very easy to apply, but the further you go in the process, it gets harder. You can apply through usajobs.gov. There's a 70-plus page packet because you're protecting the president and they want to know a lot about you. If they accept your application, you go through an entry exam, kind of like a dumbed-down ACT or SAT. You have several interviews, a huge background check, a polygraph or lie detector, physical and medical testing. If you pass all those, you go on the shelf, and then when a class becomes available, you go to training. Training part 1 consists of 3 months at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in southern Georgia. It's basically boot camp. It's a lot of physical exercise, weapons and tactics training, legal and training and assessments through physical tests and scenarios. Training part 2 consists of 3 months at the Secret Service Training Center just outside DC. This is more of a police academy where they fine-tune your training that will be more specialized to what you're doing on the day-to-day. If at any stage along the way you don't pass something, you get a second chance to relearn that task or legal or whatever it is and retest. If you fail a second time, unfortunately, you're sent home to find other employment. After going operational, I was recruited to the Special Operations section in my second year. This team is responsible for coordinating operations and logistics for more than 200 events every year at the White House. By the way, starting now, none of these are stock photos. This is actually me. So thanks, Getty. Special events include award ceremonies, bill signings, conferences, concerts, dinners, and family hangouts. About 70% of the events at the White House are public tours. You can register through your congressperson, or if you know somebody, sometimes we even got to attend. For your event, you'd be registered on the list. You come to the gate, we check your ID, send you through some security screenings, and then once you're inside, we make sure that you're not going anywhere you're not supposed to, and then also if you have any medical issues, we're the first responders. One question I get the most is, why would you leave a job like that? It sounds awesome. Well, although it's only 6 years on the calendar, I compare it to dog years. The weight of the physical equipment, the long hours, changing shift work, missing things with friends and family, it feels more like 20 years. It's also not as seen on TV. It can be a lonely job. Some days you're driving a motorcade or monitoring a party, and other times you're in a windowless stairwell with no one to talk to. Some people really like that, but I wanted to do something more and be around people. So I'm very happy about my career. I miss the people and the job every day. So thank you for your time today. And if you have any questions, the floor is open when Preston says it.
All right. Tons of questions. Renata is in charge of them as usual. So if you want, raise your hand, or you can put your question in chat, or just put that you have a question in chat and we will find you.
Although I would like to offer that if anybody would like to be in charge of this, we could use someone to take over this job. No one signed up for it today. And it is normally a job that people take. So if anyone wants to do it, now's your chance, which means you're timing the Q&A and calling on people.
And we'll have until about 11:53 for Q&A.
Okay, well, I'll do it. So let's see. Kenji.
Oh, hey. Thanks for the talk, Brandon. One thing right at the beginning kind of piqued my curiosity, which is like protecting the airspace around the White House, like especially now that there's drones. Is that something that your guys would be involved with, or is that somebody else?
Great question. Of course, it's the government, so it's complicated. In DC, there are about 57 law enforcement agencies, and DC is about the size of San Francisco, about 7 by 7. So yes, overall, everybody would be monitoring it, but then everybody will start talking of like, well, the drone is above this park. Well, now that's park police. Or, oh, it's now over on the south grounds of the White House. Obviously, that's us. So yes, short answer. Depending where it is, though, whose jurisdiction it is might change. But yes, a lot of people are monitoring that. And that is a very, as drones become more affordable and easier to get access to, definitely something that people look out for.
Thanks.
Jordan.
I'm just curious what the story was with that can of air freshener in your front.
That was actually a selfie I took for my wife when I was working a very long day. So I was probably super sleep deprived, and I just found anything that looked ridiculous in the post and was like, I'm going to add more gear to this. So I just shoved everything in there I could. I know, just a quick note on the gear. Between the vest, all the other gear that's on it, disregarding the air freshener, all of that gear, when you see an average police officer, it weighs about 25 pounds. So it's quite a bit on your back every day.
That's crazy. Chander.
Thanks, Brendan. Very educating presentation, something I have no clue about. How, when you get employed by the White House, my understanding is that the Secret Service does the background check, or is it CIA or FBI? And if you guys, or if Secret Service does it, then how extensive is that? How far back do they go? What do they check?
Sure. So I never actually talk to the people who do it. They just say it's having a background check. So I'm sure it's probably a couple different entities. There's probably an outside one. And then also the Secret Service is doing their own checks. I can speak to the latter of that to hopefully answer the back half of your question. I did my application in 2010. So I was maybe 23 or 24 at the time. And I mean, they rolled up to my high school science teacher's house. They have a list of people. I mean, they roll up to everybody. And they don't like hook them up to a lie detector, but they're like, hey, what kind of guy was he? Was there anything strange? Did you notice this? So they really dig pretty deep. Financially, I don't know what that costs. I know the Secret Service part, the agents that are doing it are already paid their yearly salary. So that's just part of their job. If an outside third-party person's doing it, I don't know what that part would cost, but it is extremely extensive.
Yeah, and incidentally, when I was working with Brandon, I was doing a lot of stuff related to background investigations for federal people, and so I learned some more stuff about this. Office of Personnel Management does a lot of it, but it's actually moving to the Department of Defense. But for the like high security clearance stuff, it can cost like thousands of dollars and take years, like more than a year, 2 years, 3 years sometimes to get a security clearance. Once you have it, it can last up to like 7 years or 15 years, depending on what it is, something like that. but they're switching to something that's called continuous monitoring right now. So it used to be like people could go like get a job, get clearance, leave the job, be a criminal for a bunch of years, go back and get another clearance once you pass the year thing. It's really, it's wildly complex. So the stuff that Brandon said is yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Next question, Jamie.
Oh yeah, so I have so many questions. Oh my God. So the first thing I want to know is who are the people that do the like running alongside the car in parades and things like that? And did you ever have to do that? And yeah.
So the first people, usually if they're in a suit, earpiece, like just like they're out of a movie, that's typically the special agents, kind of the first half of the Secret Service I mentioned. But there's a reason when you have a huge locker there that you have a change of costumes or uniforms, because they're like, hey, what are you doing? Well, your lunch is canceled. You got to go. And then you change into whatever they need you to be in. I'd say 99% of the time that's the agents, because that's kind of their job. But at any point in time, you could be reassigned at a moment's notice to do something else.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the other thing I wanted to ask is about the current political climate. Are you still involved in any of like Secret Service communities online or something? Are you hearing anything about the way that the Secret Service is regarded by the community today, as opposed to when you were, it was a couple of years ago when you left the Secret Service, right? It's like, do you know if things have changed, and if they have, how?
Sure, changed with how it's like run, or just because of the political climate and everything now?
Yeah, I'm mostly thinking political climate, but I'm interested in whatever you might know.
Yeah, absolutely. Big question. Let me know if I don't touch on a certain like aspect of it. So when I was there for 6 years of the Obama administration, and just because the current president came in, it could have been Clinton, it could have been Trump, and I would have either stayed or left respectively. So it's not because of a political office. It's just you could be there for 2 weeks or your entire career. Doesn't matter. So yeah, with all the current stuff going on now, politically, that's his show. I'll let him touch on that. But yeah, I mean, we had, when Black Lives Matter first kicked off, we had Ferguson, and there was a lot of times when you're just like, hey, I'm here to do my job. And you, unfortunately, whether you agree or disagree with the thousands of protests that are out there, you have a job to do, and you have to stay professional. You have to stay quiet, and you just have to do your job, which is to protect the people there in the house. A lot of the people that you saw recently, when they moved people for the convenient photo op at the church, some of those guys were ours, but our job is to just move the fence line back so people don't rush the house. A lot of the other people you saw were MPDC, which is like the police department of Washington, D.C. They had Park Police. They had a bunch of different people out there. And it sucks because there's a lot of times where, like I said, you may agree or disagree with that protest, and you're like, why do I have to do this? This is dumb. It's what they tell you to do, and unfortunately you have to do some of it. And that's another hard part of the job, is that you're like, I don't want to do this, but it's something that you have to do, at least to a certain point. Hopefully things start changing around. I'm really glad to see the way that it's going. And I know there's probably a lot of other questions about that. Being on the law enforcement side for 6 years and then coming back, there is no greater pain in your gut when you see people that you work with every day and a few bad apples ruin the bunch, and you get a knot in your stomach being like, that's not me. That's not what I signed up for. I don't represent that. And every good cop out there feels that pain. And so hopefully towards the end of the question here, hopefully things start getting better, because we definitely need to change.
Wow, what a note to end on.
Yeah, that's
right
great.
Sorry, it's so heavy, guys.
No, thank you for addressing the thing that everyone's inevitably thinking about these days. And we don't need to end on that note for you. We'll have time at the end for a mass Q&A. So please, if you're interested in talking to Brandon more, stick around at the end.